that's when the whole journey began, because once I got myself out of the fiat world, off the hamster wheel, out of the corner I'd painted myself into, I suddenly became the master of my time. All of a sudden the time was mine, not specifically all mine because I had a wife and 4 kids, but it was our decision. And that's when I found the power of freedom, and that's when I had the time to start actually educating myself and learning about Bitcoin. We had to find the people that had gone before us. We had to find the families that had left their lifestyle. That I had to find the husband that had given up a career. My wife had to find the woman that was comfortable taking her kids out of school. We had to find a family that had done this before. So we had to find the confidence. We did that via research, and you reach out to these people and you have conversations. So once we'd found the confidence to actually put into place the idea that we wanted to take our kids out of school and go and travel long term with them, everything else is kind of not as important. So when it came to selling our stuff, it's like, well, we've already made the big one. The big decision is we're doing this. So in order to be able to do this, we have to do this. This is the next stage. And I think this is where a lot of people will get stuck, because there are a lot of stages to keep turning that flywheel, shutting down bank accounts, shutting down internet accounts, and all of this, bureaucratic, administrative stuff that keeps you completely pinned under a glass ceiling of not being able to just think for yourself. We started to realize that if we want to make this dream come true, we've got to sell all of this stuff, and it is just stuff. So when we did the first kind of big sell of the stuff that we thought we loved, as soon as that left the house, room appeared, like physically and mentally. It was like a decluttering of your mind as well as a decluttering of your house. And we found that more stuff that went out and the more room that came into our house, more room came into our minds. And it was really a weird feeling, a calm feeling. When we told the kids, it didn't take them too long to get used to the idea, and we don't give kids enough credit for their adaptability. And as parents, we project our fears onto our children, and we make the decisions for them in what we perceive to be in their best interests. So where they go to school, for example, it's what you've decided because you've done the research and you believe that's the best school, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and all of these other fiat life traps that you fall into. You're trying to do that as a good parent, and you're trying to look after your kids, but at the same time, you've given them absolutely no agency over what they're going to do, where they're going to go, and how they're going to do it. They just end up being placed along the way. So what we learned was having these discussions with them, telling them, right, we're having this weird idea of selling everything we own, leaving Singapore where you were all born and you've all grown up, and we're going to take you out of school and we're going to travel the world. Sounds like the easiest pitch in the world, right? Like, who wouldn't want to do that? Turned out kids don't want to do that. Kids are like, no, we don't want to leave our friends, blah, blah, blah. That lasts for like a day or two. And then when you actually get to the point of going, they're all geared up, they're ready to go. They've bought into the whole idea, the project, the trip, and then you're a unit. And when you start traveling together, and you start spending all of that time together and learning from each other, you have the most incredible connections that you've ever had as a family before, because now it's not, right, okay, let's go shake the kid awake, it's 6:30, let's wake them out of their slumber. Let's put them in a chair, let's force grains and sugar down their neck, let's dress them in something that's going to make them look like every other kid, then force them into a car, have them sit in traffic for 20 minutes, then kick them out the other end and say, all right, I'll be back in 8 hours. I mean, that's most people's lives, and that's most kids' lives, and that's just complete detachment. But the trick that's been pulled on us is people think they're doing the best thing for their kids in that situation. And it's truly disgusting. It's insidious, it's traumatic, it's psychologically damaging, and it's something that we've all been through and we're all still suffering with as adults. So that was like, it took me barely a few weeks to realize the difference in the whole family dynamic and how this was going to benefit all of us, not just the kids, but all of us, my wife and I included. I learned more about me, myself, my wife, my kids in that first few months of traveling than ever before. There's such a difference between teaching and learning. And what you go through at school is teaching. You're taught at. You're sat there and your information is forced at you. It's not inquisitive, it's not self-directed, it's not learning. Learning is completely different. Learning is when you lose yourself in a task and you have no idea how long you've been doing that task for, and you look up and 5 hours have passed and you just want to, like, how did that happen and I've still got so much to do. That's what you experience, as we've all found, when you're falling down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and you start, like, all of these synapses start firing and like, oh my God, this is actual what learning is. And you're so intellectually stimulated that you don't want it to stop. And there are so many different avenues that you can go down. And so when you extricate yourself from a classroom where you've got 45 minutes to learn that thing, or else, because you're going to get left behind if you don't nail that, because we're moving on to the next thing. You have no choice over what you learn, how you learn, what time line that you learn it. It's all forced down your neck. It's all created by someone else. It's somebody else's agenda. It's not a curriculum. Curriculum's a nice fuzzy word for agenda. And when you take yourself away from that, you take your family away from that, you take that government, like that form of governing you take that boot off your neck, whatever analogy you want to use, you can start thinking and you can start learning together. So what I saw in the kids was this appetite to learn. The questions wouldn't stop. Like, you cannot stop it. You cannot stop the learning. You cannot stop the inquisition. And what was truly incredible to see with my oldest daughters, they would ask me questions and I didn't have the answer. My monkey mind would tell me, you're not good enough to teach your kids, like the rest of society was telling me. You're an irresponsible parent, you're not good enough to tell your kids. So I'd have to tell them, you know what? I don't know. But we better go find out. Let's go to the computer, let's get our laptops up. And we would sit down together and research it. We would just type in Google, like, why is this like that? And then we'd learn together, and that is so powerful because now a child understands immediately, the adult in the room doesn't have all the answers. The answer isn't at the back of a textbook. Life is a mystery, because in that other situation, in the schooling situation, you're tricked into believing the adult in the room knows everything. And all you've got to do is ask them the question, and they'll give you the answer. Or if you can't find the answer, you can't get the answer, you just turn to the back of the book and there's the answer. They believe it's a linear, progression. So when they see an adult actually truthfully say, I don't know how that works, but I want to go now take a look because you've inspired me to find the right answer to give to you so you can round out your knowledge and we can answer your question. Magic, like pure magic. You see it in their eyes. And when they sit down and start learning with you and start putting it together, they see the epiphanies you start having. And it's just this positive reinforcement loop. And it's something that has been stolen from us. I almost said something we have lost. We didn't lose it. It was taken. It was taken insidiously by the people that set up this system to de-engineer society into what it's become today. How society has been completely engineered to what it has become today. How we've been forcibly divided. How we've had our families trampled all over. How our connection with nature has been completely destroyed. How our connection with each other has been totally and utterly manipulated. How we've been divided, whatever tools they use, whether that's narratives on religion, or narratives on race, or narratives on culture, or narratives on nationality, and narratives on history. Is just so disgusting how they've completely tricked us all into believing that this is the way society is, and this is what we just have to do to get by. Bitcoin gave me the tool I needed to make them completely relevant. They're completely irrelevant. They can't control me anymore, to a certain extent, of course. But the money the currency that I'd worked for in the past, because I've changed that now into money, into hard money, into sound money, into real money, that is just going to appreciate over time. I know my future is never going to be certain, but I know whatever happens, I'm going to have the means to meet that head on with a medium of exchange that is always going to accrue in value, and give me the time and the presence and the hope and the freedom to be able to think through any future problems and think clearly and pass generational wealth down through my family to my kids. It's like a feeling I'd never experienced before in my old job. Going back to the start of the story, I would be sat there 10, 11 hours a day just thinking to myself, I've got another 10 to 15 years and maybe I can retire. All I've got to do is work my hardest for the next 10 to 15 years. And the harder I work, the more money I'll get and the safer we'll be. At the same time, it's just being stolen away in front of your eyes with inflation and lies and interest rate, market manipulation, any tool they've got in the box just to keep you running on that hamster wheel as fast as you can and never be free. So Bitcoin gave me freedom. Bitcoin gave me time.
Done.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.